This Let's Edit with Media Composer tutorial is brought to you by Video Guys, the leading reseller of video editing and production equipment for over 25 years, and by Boris Effects, the leading developer of visual effects plugins, titling, motion tracking, and workflow tools for broadcast, post-production, and film professionals, and by Assimilate Inc., makers of Scratch, the #1 choice of professionals for complete dailies and larger than HD finishing workflows. Scratch, amazingly creative, incredibly fast. Hey everyone, Kevin P McAuliffe here, and I am back again with another Let's Edit with Avid Media Composer tutorial. And in this lesson, we're talking the 2019.12 update for Avid Media Composer. In this lesson, I want to go over a lot of the new features inside of this great update, and we're going to give a little tease into a tutorial series that we're going to be talking about in the new year on Avid Titler Plus. This effect is almost ready for prime time. There's some new updates to it inside of 2019.12, and I want to show them to you, and you're going to see why that this might be a titling tool that you might want to consider for your larger than HD workflows. Now, I do want to point out that there are some updates to Media Composer that deal with ACES color space that, to be honest, I'm going to save to when we talk about the lessons with Media Composer and Assimilate Scratch, because those workflows, although available inside of Media Composer, I don't quite think is the easiest path for you to travel. All right, let's keep this introduction as short as possible. Let's get into Media Composer and let's talk about the 2019.12 update. All right, so as you can see, we are in Media Composer. This is the 2019.12 update. And we're not going to be going into every new feature because there's a whole bunch of small little bells and whistles. But what I encourage you to do is that I've added a link in the show notes to the What's New document so you can download it, check it out, and know what all the, I'll say the extra bells and whistles, because I'm going to cover the main ones in this lesson. You can figure out all the extra bells and whistles to help enhance your workflow at your own leisure. All right. So let's talk about a feature that has been enhanced, and it might seem like a small one, but the feature update that's been added to it is actually pretty helpful. All right, and previously you'll see that I have all of my bins currently open up here, all tabbed, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to see, let's come back to my footage bin right here, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to see this bin in the sidebar. Now, how we might do this previously is to pull the sidebar out, and if I was just going through and clicking, you'll see that I don't actually get an idea of what bin is being used. But what we could do, even if we don't want to pull that sidebar out, is we could right click somewhere in the bin, and I'm just going to come back to the footage bin for 1 second because you'll see that we're kind of having to place ourselves over here to the left where there's actually no clips that we can say show in sidebar. Now, the reason that we're doing this is because we got to be careful that we're not a little too close to the color. Oh, no, that's not right. Now we're going to come in here. Okay, yeah, show bin in sidebar. Well, what we now have the ability to do is instead of right-clicking, we can navigate up to bin and come down to show bin in sidebar. Now you're probably thinking, wow, so instead of right-clicking, I can go up to the drop-down menu. Well, the reason it's been added to the drop-down menu is because that means that it can now be mapped to a keyboard command or a composer command. So that's why this feature is a welcome feature. So instead of you constantly right-clicking or going up to the bin drop-down, you can simply hit your keyboard shortcut for it. Boom, it'll show it to you in the sidebar, and you're all set to go. All right, so let's come over here to our inspector tool. And I'm just going to select one clip here. Now, we know the way the inspector works from the previous lesson I did on the inspector. And when I select a clip, you'll see that I'm given some information about it, from the tracks to the duration, the format, fairly self-explanatory. Now, the reason it's not showing me all the parameters is because I have the profile set to be my personal inspector view, where I have turned off things like audio, I've turned off time and marks, for the purposes of this lesson. So what I'm going to do is hold Command or Control down on the keyboard. I'm just going to select two other clips here. Now you'll notice right away, if you take a look at the name and the duration, that parameter has been updated now to say multiple selected, meaning that that parameter is different across the three clips that I had selected. So it's telling me that it can't tell me what the value is because there's different values for each one. There's multiple values. However, the values that are the same will be displayed to me as what they actually are. So for example, I know that all these clips are ProRes. So you can see right here, video wrapper format, Apple ProRes. Plug in QuickTime, its frame rate is 2398. What's also cool about this is that editable parameters, except for name, which I'm not sure why is not updatable, but for example, color, I can come down. If I click on the clip color, I can come down now, make it green, and boom, there it now is attached to each one of those clips. Now, with that being said, we're just going to turn that off, and let's look at Titler Plus. Now, what I'm going to do here is just close a lot of these, because to be honest, I don't really need to see them. Let's actually just come over here. We're just going to pull the sidebar out a little bit here, and we'll close them all up. Very nice. Okay, so Titler Plus. Now I just need the bin open that I'm going to be working with, which I believe is this one right here. It is. All right, so we have a clip in our timeline. I'm going to be putting this title on video track number 2. A couple ways that we can add this title. We can simply click on the Titler Plus button right here. I can navigate up to Tools, come down to Titler Plus, or I can use a keyboard shortcut. However, one thing that's important to keep in mind is that when you're applying Titler Plus, if you come in and simply hit Titler Plus and you don't have in and out points marked on your timeline, it's going to apply the title to the entire length of, I'll say, the in and out points, which in this case there isn't any, so it's applying it to the entire length of the timeline, which I don't want. So I'm just going to mark an in and out point. Now, I do also want to point out the fact that you're probably thinking, well, Kev, you haven't really done any tutorials on Titler Plus, and it was, I'll say, a fairly big update when it was implemented, and to be honest, I am of my own personal opinion that it was not ready for prime time when it was released. It was put in there because it was promised to be in there. And what Avid is now doing is they've been pretty dedicated to adding updates to Titler Plus, which is actually very, I'll commend Avid for that. That's very, very handy and helpful, because this really should be the titler that we're going to do our titling with, because it's very simple to apply, not so much simple to use, but like I said, feature updates are being added in almost every release to get this titler up to where it needs to be. So I'm going to mark the range that we're going to be working with. I'm going to hit F2 to add the title, and once I do, the title will be added, the effects editor will be opened, and the Titler Plus interface will now appear. So the first thing I need to do before we do anything else is to add a title. So let's come in, let's type in Avid Titler Plus. Okay, now the first update to Titler Plus is that keyframes are now not automatically added every time we do something. Now, you probably know with effects like 3D warp, when you get in, you start adjusting things like scale and rotation and things like that. Keyframes are added, obviously, for the purposes of animation. Well, that doesn't quite work as well inside of a titling application. So now in, I'll say, this release and moving forward, keyframes will not be added inside of Titler Plus until you actually get in and add them yourself. Okay? Now, the next feature, and what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to come to the actual font itself, and you'll notice that as I scroll through, for any font that is supported inside of Media Composer, you'll see that I get a preview of it inside of the interface, like such. So let's just pick a new one here. Let's pick Oswald. Why not? There we go. So there is Oswald. Now, in certain cases, what we might want to do with this title is reposition it. Now, what I like to know is where my title saves are. Now, how you're probably accustomed to getting to title saves is by heading back to the effects editor. You'll see it right here. Boom, we can add it like such. What we also now have the ability to do, and this is also very handy based on where your Titler Plus toolbar is that we can actually access that right from here as well. And what we also have the ability to do is to right click, and sometimes it likes to jump the Titler Plus window out of the way when I do that, is to right click and select the grid settings right from here. So if I wanted to come in and switch that to be a normal 16:9 and say OK, you'll see we can make all of those adjustments right here. Okay, now getting in, I'm just going to turn off saves for right now, because what I'd like to do is just reposition this. I think what I'm going to do just to reposition it here is to grab it, and we're just going to move it down here like such. What I'd like to do is just move it down to position it exactly on safe title. Okay, so I'm just going to use the keyboard up and down, left and right arrow keys to move it over. But you know what? I'd really like to move it a little bit faster than this. So what I'm going to do is hold shift, and we can actually jump it a lot faster than we did before. So another new feature update right there. Get it pretty close to where you want. Take your hand off of shift and then fine tune it just like such. Now, let's talk about something else here. Now, to be honest, this text is a little bit on the big side, so I think I'm going to put it down to about 150. And what I would like to do with this text is to have it be the standard text that I can easily default back to if I get in, change things, change scaling and things like that. So what we have the ability to do in the lower left-hand corner, the Titler Plus interface right here, is to save the default parameters for this title right here. Okay, I'm simply going to click on it. Now, nothing is apparently going to happen, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get in and I'm just going to resize Avid just like such, and let's now remove this title. Okay, let's just click somewhere else. I'm going to remove it and I'm going to add it back in again. So once I add it back in again, I'm just going to come and I'm just going to put the text in again. Text. Okay, and you'll see that it's all stretched out, not quite looking the way that we want. But now all I have to do, because I know what the default parameter was that I set, is to simply come in, restore that default parameter, and this text is now back to being the correct font, the correct size, etc., etc. Now, of course, that does beg the question, what exactly are the current properties that Avid is saving? Well, this is my favorite, and when I read the document, I had a good laugh. Font, size, color, etc. So I'm not exactly sure what that etc. means, but I'm going to assume it's going to save pretty much all of the parameters of your text. So this way, once you get in, you mess around, you add a new title. Of course, the title is defaulting back to what the previous title's end result was. You can easily get things back to their default with the click of the mouse. All right, now last but certainly not least, we now have the ability to come in, and what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click out of the title for a second. I'm going to double click on it and I'm going to call up another clip here. Let's just call up one that has a different color. Sure, this giraffe is going to work well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this giraffe clip inside of the title on track number 2. Now let's just make sure that we have enough of the giraffe here. There we go. Let's make sure we're actually going to select the entire duration of that clip. Perfect. Now you'll notice that nothing has happened to the actual title for Titler Plus. So what I do want to do here is I want to get in and I actually want to adjust this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to step into effects mode. I'm not going to bother to call up the interface again. And I'm just going to show you a little bit of an interesting plus and minus to this feature. Okay, I'm going to call up the text. I'm just going to increase its size so it's a little bit easier to see. And what I'm going to do is just turn the shadow off for the purposes of showing this to you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the global parameters for this title. What I have the ability to do is, because I put that title on video track number, or that clip on video track number 2 inside the title, Titler Plus is looking at that as video fill. So what I can do is I can come right down here to the video fill opacity parameter, and as I drag it up, you'll see that that giraffe is now being added into the text. However, with it being added into the text, it's actually being into the entire text, which to be honest, I'm a little bit surprised by this. When I turn the shadow on, you'll see that the background image is now part of the shadow as well, which to be honest, I'd really rather have it as a separate parameter. But hey, guess what? Maybe that'll be a feature update in an upcoming version. All right, now we do also in this version have the ability to export as OpenEXR because we were given that ability, which is exceptionally important if you're going to be getting into ACES color space workflows. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not entirely happy with the larger than HD workflows inside of Media Composer because there's too many bells and whistles. You have to use this format, that format, make sure you apply this, make sure you apply that, which is why, to be honest, I've partnered up with Assimilate and Scratch because Scratch is really my go-to application when I'm doing larger than HD work. And we're going to talk more about ACES workflows when I do a few little Media Composer Scratch hand-in-hand lessons so that you can start to understand these concepts so that you can work them into your larger than HD workflows. All right, now as we're wrapping up, I want to remind you to check out our sponsors, Video Guys, for all of your Avid software and hardware, as well as thousands of other products that you can check out over at videoguys.com. And I also want to give a big shout out to the team at Boris FX, makers of Continuum, Sapphire, and Mocha. And don't forget to use that coupon code of MC101 to get 10% off your next Continuum purchase. And I want to round out this lesson by letting you know that the awesome team at Assimilate has given you a coupon code for 10% off of Scratch, Scratch VR, or Play Pro annual licenses using the coupon code of KPMDeal for you. If you like this tutorial, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And don't forget, if you have any questions, you have any comments, or you have any tutorial requests, don't hesitate to send them to me at kevinpmcauliffe@gmail.com. This has been Kevin P. McAuliffe. Thanks a lot for watching.